Often, when interim ministers work with congregations that have not been served well by their ministers on certain occasions, we forget to remind you of your beloved ministers, of the people that we call in the interim minister BFMs. You probably never heard that phrase. It stands for beloved former minister. And you have some. And I wanted to bring them up today to remind you that you have had some wonderful experiences. Of course, you had part-time ministers who meant a lot to you. Some of them came for Bill Kennedy's memorial service, for his celebration of life. I include among those Judy Wells, who certainly served you well during her time. And then came Rachel Anderson, who went from part-time to full-time. Fresh out of Starr King School for Ministry, she ultimately learned she was called to pastoral work after 4 years at this congregation. I met with her briefly at my first ministers' meeting up in Sonoma County, and she remembers you fondly, speaks of you well, and was really happy to talk to me about this congregation. You need to know that. In addition, of course, no one who has experienced Julia Older, who remained in service for 10 years in this congregation, also out of Starr King, served this congregation with great commitment and strength. She, however, found her soulmate, married him, and moved after she retired from UUFRC to Arizona. She is now the only minister emerita of UUFRC and has well earned that honorific. Now, I can make a promise to you. I can guarantee your next minister will not be like either of them. They will be their own person, a delightful new experience of ministry for you as a congregation. So please remember how much you love and trust your ministerial search committee, whom you selected by one of the most democratic processes possible. I truly, truly am so pleased with this search committee. It is clear now, speaking with them, they are truly excited about their choice for this congregation. And I personally am too. I'm excited because I spoke to two of the possible people, and I think you can't lose. So, I thought it might be useful to talk to you as a congregation facing a new ministry in a time of pandemic, a little bit about some of the issues that every congregation has to address when a new minister arrives, walks through the door, both you wondering who this person is and that person wondering who you are. Yes, you will have opportunities to meet briefly and speak with them, but there's some basic human systems issues that arise. First of all, fear of the stranger. Parker J. Palmer notes this is the first step to a healthy community, facing the fear of a stranger and dealing with it, recognizing it, looking at the reasons the fear arrives. And this may come in this congregation with memories of those ministers who did not serve UUFRC well. So I invite you to also remember those who served you well when you are dealing with this. Sam Keen notes that the stranger is worthy to be feared as a group will change when it accepts a stranger. And how many strangers have you accepted over all these years you've been around that have proven to be wonderful friends, hardworking co-conspirators to follow through with UU values? Please know that the changes can be for good in this congregation. And that leads to another fear that's true for every religious community gathering with a new minister. There's a fear of change. Now, you've heard about this from me before, including in the sermon, "No one likes change but a wet baby." Many of us have a hard time with change. I refer to the wisdom of my wife, who once said to me, "Change is not good. Change is not bad. It's just different." And that's an opportunity as well as something to fear. In human groups, homeostasis, keeping things the same, takes less energy than morphogenesis, which opens the system and brings in new things, as Ilya Prigogine learned when he came through his thought processes. The energy may pay off beyond your hopes and dreams if you truly listen and negotiate your shared hopes and dreams as minister and as congregation. One of the things that also happens every time a minister changes is that you will lose some members. I have often found that the members you lose were not really UUs, they were followers of a personality. You will also find that some people change in interaction with the new minister. This always happens with each change in a human system. Now, as I said, some of those members may not be Unitarian Universalists, but most of the people in this congregation have understood through the years that we have a set of values that hold us together, those purposes and principles of Unitarian Universalism and its vision of transformation of not only the individual, but the whole world for the greater good of all. And assuredly, a new minister will bring new members. Think of the new members who have come since I was here, first arriving. Many didn't come because of me. They became because of the music, because of the community, for many different reasons. Many of them because this is the church with the UU franchise in Redwood City. And they have come from other Unitarian Universalist churches. So, new members will come. They won't look like the current members. Younger, possibly, less inhibited by the fears of the past, and even perhaps less distrustful of ministry in general, looking forward to the relationships that will be built between minister and congregation. Worship, I have to tell you, will change. I think you may find it refreshing, the changes that you may enjoy very much, but worship will change. I have found from the newer ministers I have gotten to know over the years, and remember, I've mentored so many of them, I ran out of fingers and toes to count them, that one of the things will happen is worship will be still intellectual. We all treasure the brain. But worship will also be more embodied, more open to listening to our bodies, still structured, but less rigid. And then there's the fear of categories that we experienced with Keith Cron in our Beyond Categorical Thinking weekend. Obese, alcoholic, Black, gay. You may have to deal with some of those questions. And if you do, thank your ministerial search committee, but challenge your own assumptions and your experiences in life that have caused you to feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to feel more comfortable in yourself with difference. Oh, and of course, there's the UU critical mind. So look at your life experience and ask one another, how can we help? How can we make better connections? So please openly address all these concerns with each other and with your candidate. Yes, your candidate is experienced, I'm happy to say, ready to go, and has, should I say this, Erica, lived in the Bay Area? Is that okay? They know a little bit about where we are. You will still need to listen carefully to them so that you truly experience them and not your fears. So you have some opportunities to look forward to also, some ritual opportunities. First, of course, is the call. It is only the right of the congregation to call your next minister. The board cannot hire them. It is your choice. So that vote on the 14th of June is not a vote to hire someone. It is a vote to call them into relationship with you, to share with one another what is most important in your lives and the skills that that minister has learned to bring to all of our spiritual growth, as well as our understanding of community. The Reverend Dr. Peter Rabel said once that the minister is the bearer of the heritage, that would be Unitarian Universalism, and the facilitator of the community. And as facilitator of the community, they have gathered skills to help you all become more open-hearted and deeper thinkers. So you will be asked on June 14 to call. You also have another ritual. It's called the installation. And I know there's some tender bits around installation in this congregation, but I want to point out that an installation is a ceremony that solemnly and publicly states that this minister, the one that you've called and signed a letter of agreement with, is now your chosen leader and representative. This installation is done in one ceremony that will be scheduled after the minister has been with the church long enough to feel truly settled. I suspect this will happen relatively quickly with your candidate. In fact, I'm relatively confident of that. And your candidate has already been ordained, which is done only once. Some people get confused. The installation is not the ordination. We ordained Ellie Kilpatrick last June. But this minister has served other congregations, and you are thus truly blessed. The installation, on the other hand, is done every time a church and a minister begin a new, fully settled ministry. As you know, That can happen often through the life of a congregation. The installation tries to set the tone, the feeling of the ministry to come. And it's an opportunity for your candidate to have people who are important to them to share their understanding of your new minister. Now, every new minister, whether well seasoned or still green behind the ears, has to learn about you so that you become a teaching congregation. Let the minister know what you want, how you want it, directly, not through gossip or hearsay. Talk to them. Let them know. You'll have your first chance to do that during 2 weeks of candidating, which will be a good opportunity to start that process. And please do not believe what you have been told in past about how to welcome members. I really need to say that because most of us as ministers want to be sought out and asked what we need right from the beginning of our ministry, and to hear from you what you need from them. This is called transparency, both ways. We have a joke that the transition team works from the moment the new interim minister begins work until your new fully settled minister comes into their place and you bring coffee and toilet paper. Who knew the pandemic would show up every time you got a new minister? But these are essentials for starting a new household, as some of you have found. Know that no matter who you choose, they have 4 masters. This is important. Not just the congregation, but that's the first. Also, the Unitarian Universalist Association, to represent those values well, not only to the congregation, but also to the community in which you are settled. And that brings up the third master, Redwood City. It's helpful if a new fully settled minister takes at least a year to find at least one activity that truly meets their passion as well as the city's need. Not 55, 1. Okay. And that has to match with their 4th master, those values they hold most dear and wish to bring into the larger world. Only the minister can ultimately decide which master is most important in any given situation. Wise counsel from members of this congregation will help them as well. And if they have any sense, they will listen. And if you have any sense, you will listen too. Funny about that, how much listening is more important than talking sometimes. So, you will have a minister who will reshape the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City for the future. You hold the franchise for Unitarian Universalism in Redwood City. Now, what are you going to do with that franchise? Are you going to build it up and make it a vital, viable, exciting community? Or, well, we won't talk about the other option. We'll just think about the positive one. You have declared you want to grow. Are you open to what it may take? As Peter Morales said to the congregation that he tripled in size in 2 years, repel fewer newcomers. Think about that for a minute. Repel fewer newcomers. Welcome them, integrate them, find ways to acknowledge and encourage their skills and knowledge. That means in the coffee hour, find out their name. And please remember, you are as much a representative of the congregation as the minister is. And you ask yourselves, what 3 things, this is to ask yourself as a congregation, what 3 things, if you stopped doing them, would contribute to growth? Tondi Rogers offers this suggestion for every congregation, and I love it. In many ways, it's another way, much more gracious, of course, being Tondi, she says those things, to say what many of us say, and that is repel fewer newcomers. Okay? And also an aphorism for interim ministry: if it's broke, don't fix it. Find something new to do that's exciting and moves you forward and gives you a sense, a new sense of who we are together. So, what to do? Getting ready for a new ministry. What are we called to do when we are getting ready for a new ministry? First, open your minds to risk and change. Second, open your hearts to new love, unforeseen. Remember, the stranger may be an angel unaware. Open your hands to dig in for the good work ahead. Commit to the values of Unitarian Universalism and the possibility for transformation that you say, and more than say, live what your values are. It's up to you, step by step. Don't step back and judge. Lean in and begin to participate. And especially if you're prejudging by category, be it age, sex, or experience. Allow this person to be who they uniquely are. And so I close with the quote from the reading that Kathy Warren did by Jack Mendelson, one of our best known preachers from the mid-20th century. The future of the liberal church is almost totally dependent on these 2 factors: great congregations, whether large or small, and effective, dedicated ministers. Jack goes on to say, the strangest feature of their relationship is that they create one another. They create one another. You are on the cusp of a new adventure. Start taking steps together with respect, with responsibility, and with relish for the process. Amen. Amen. So be it, and blessed be.